Now, Arsenal have been linked with signing Bitello of Gremio for £8 million, people. Now, I'm by no means an expert of Brazilian football, nor of the individual in question. Obviously, we can all look at Scout, we can all look at, blogs, we can all watch clips on YouTube and things like that. So in this video, I guess we'll get to know a lot about him. From what I've seen, I think he's got a good technical quality. I think he's got a good engine. I think his link-up play is good. I think he can improve physically. I think his final ball is great, but he could improve. I think he makes some very good forward runs into the box. And through my research, you've actually seen some great link-up play with Luis Suarez, for example. If Mikel Arteta wants the man in question, then that's enough for me. At 23 years of age, allegedly, he may or may not qualify for a work permit. What that could mean, evidently, is that, if he has to go out on loan, maybe to Spain, like we've seen with Wellington Silva, Pedro Bitello, Carlos Vela, Joel Campbell, etc., until he gains that work permit, and he might be a development signing. Again, we've signed Martinelli and Marquinhos from the Brazilian market for mixed success. As you know, Martinelli's gone from strength to strength. Marquinhos is yet to really hit the heights in England. But if you can take the 3 million initial fee and turn that into 30, that would be great. Just like potentially for 8 million with Bitello. It's a low cost, low risk operation of sorts, and you can see why you like him. And I mean, Edu's Brazilian, you want him to keep in touch with the Brazilian market. Of course, we want stars and quality players and household names and all of that sexy sort of stuff in football, but it's not always about that. If we've done our due diligence, if we've scouted this individual and we believe he could add something to the team, I'm all for that. He can play as an 8, a 10 and out wide. At 23 years of age, he actually isn't the most experienced individual. I believe his current campaign for Gremio, where he's chipped in with goals and assists, don't quote me, I think 6 goals, 7 assists or something along them lines. That's his first season in the top flight in Brazil. So there's a lot of development he needs to make in the Brazilian national team, let alone making the step to Europe. We might scouted him. We might think there's an admiration for his talents, but we'll have to know. You can see why you could like him. As you can see, he's always playing with his head up. He's always looking forward. Despite not being the most physical of individuals, he does put himself about, and you do see him working the left and right channels from midfield, and you could see him probably playing at Arsenal as a rotating 8. So if you don't know what I'm referring to, probably what we're going to line up with Odegaard and Havertz either side and Declan Rice in between them. It does feel like, again, I'm all for technical players. As you can see, he's a goal threat. He scores goals. He gets assists. He's a good dribbler. It just feels like, we got him, assuming we signed him, better yet, we would have him, Fabio Vieira, Smith Rowe, Odegaard and Havertz, players that can play in those roles, but other roles as well. I'm all for it, really and truly. I think he's a very decent player, if I'm honest with you, from the footage available. Again, in terms of weaknesses, I think he can improve physically. I think his passing could be that much more crisper. I think his finishing could be that much more better. I think he would need to improve physically wherever he's going to play in Europe. But again, he's dynamic. There's a lot of dynamism. He makes great forward runs into the box. His link-up play and final ball is decent, as you can see there, where he's tried to tee in Luis Suarez. He's obviously very cultured. I mean, you can't be a Brazilian player and not have a high technical level and be very expressive in that regards, as you lot can see, really and truly. If Arteta wants him, fair enough. I personally think we need another midfielder. I would like more of an experienced, ready-made sort of option. But if this is the man and we've done our due diligence and we've genuinely scouted him, why not? As you can see there, he probably should have had an assist. As I said, throughout my research, he's probably been unlucky. I like his passes, man. Those defense splitting passes, we could do with it. On the face of it, he's an Arsenal player, really and truly, and you can see the qualities he could bring to the team. And if nothing more, 8 million, turn that into 18, 28, 38, 58 or whatever. We sell, we reinvest, and we bring players in who can. Again, probably not the cleanest of tackles there, but he does look like he's willing to put in a shift in all areas of the field, which, again, as you know, in a Mikel Arteta system, that's just as important as doing what got you into the club, really. I mean, that's a cute little bit of interplay from Gremio as well in that regards. Very decent player, if I'm completely honest with you. And again, we'll have to see. Fabrizio Romano has spoken on Arsenal's potential interest in the individual, and we will go over that throughout the course of this video. But I just thought, you lot might as well have somewhat insight into what he can do. That's a very decent ball, really and truly, and that's a poor goalkeeping, but that's a very good goal. As you'd expect, someone that strengths are probably in the attacking half of the pitch, you'd expect him to have a good passing range, a good final ball, a goal threat, and link up well with his teammates, really. I could see why we might be quote unquote interested within this individual. if I'm completely honest with you, as you can see via the clips provided here, people. Again, sorry for any issues you lot are seeing with the audio and things. YouTube seems to be having issues processing. You're gonna have to forgive me for that, people. But yeah, man, I mean, he's a very decent individual. That was a good long range strike. If you saw what happened just there, again, well, if you didn't, you probably see it in a few moments. There's a lot to like about him. Obviously, this video is about 39 minutes long or something like that. So yeah, this isn't 39 minutes. Isn't the best of case studies for a player. Anybody can make a player look good or bad in relation to clips. And I do like his willingness to switch play as well. I think that's really underrated, really and truly. I mean, if he does play like these clips available to us, then I think we'd be in luck there. But the main issue, I guess, would be the work permit. Because obviously, if you don't qualify for a work permit and Arsenal are not successful in appealing, if you was initially rejected for a work permit, then you would have to find, a loan, whether that's to Holland, whether that's to Spain, whether that's to France. But in terms of the short and medium term, he'd be able to play no part in Arsenal's campaign, really. And if he was to be signed tomorrow, as someone who's ignorant in relation to his qualities, you do have to wonder how much first team football would he get, really and truly. But I'm all for another technical player, and again, emerging talent, really. You look at, Arsenal, we've made a lot of poor signings under Mikel Arteta. Our hit to miss ratio has been a lot better. The only signings that probably haven't worked under Mikel Arteta was the obvious ones that you could see wasn't, which he has to hold his hands up. Lokonga, Tavares, who else is there? Fabio Vieira, the jury's still out. Willian didn't work. Aubameyang New Deal didn't work. Cedric didn't work. But I mean, you look at the Benjamin Whites, the Ramsdales of this world, so on and so forth, really. There's a lot of talented players that obviously could bring benefit to Arsenal Football Club, really. And for all the criticism about signing ready-made players and things, and Arsenal's decision-making in the transfer market, which Arteta and Edu are right in the wrongs that we've been doing for years. When you look at it, in terms of the current market, especially where you're seeing in the case of Lavia, for example, he's been at Southampton 5 minutes and they're saying 50 million, Caicedo's got about 40 odd appearances for Brighton. They're saying 100 odd million quid. Tchouaméni moved to Real Madrid for 100+ million. It pays to somewhat outsmart the market and get ahead of things in this regards, people. You look at Martinelli signed for 6 million. Saka came from the academy. Saliba signed in 2019 for about 27-28 million. How much has that saved us potentially? How much would it cost to buy Saliba now? Basically, really, if he was at another club and he just signed a new deal off the back of the season he had last year, the same goes for Martinelli, and Saka's easily 100+ million quid, really. Whatever people say, I'm not saying, I'm not trying to overrate Saka. He's a brilliant player, and on the board, he's a top quality player on the borderline of potentially one day being world class. But if we was trying to buy Saka, especially with the English tax and the modern market, you're looking at 100 odd million plus, really. So it pays to outsmart the market. If this guy genuinely has the quality, fair enough. But I do think we're starting to get well stocked and add squad depth and stuff. But with that, I think if we're bringing in players, while I'm all for the players that could grow and scope to grow tomorrow and stuff, we probably need more all-rounders because it's getting congested, really. There's only 11 players can start a game. Only X amount can be on the bench, really and truly. So we'd have to see. But if Arsenal were to sign this individual and say, you know what, go out on loan, adjust to Europe, and then we'll either look to bring you into the first team or sell you for make a profit, why not? That's what our academy needs to do, and that's what our scouts need to do in emerging markets. The priority evidently has to be players for our first team that can grow and develop under Mikel Arteta and add something in North London. If not, can we sell them? Can we get into a world where Chelsea had it, where players, especially from abroad, that couldn't get work permits or didn't play a game, were sold for X amount of million quid, which obviously can be reinvested and help us reintegrate them funds and into players that obviously could help us as a football club, really and truly. Especially as, well, Arsenal have shown they'll flex their muscles. We just spent over 100 odd million on Declan Rice, whether people like it or not. 60 rising to 70 for Havertz. And there's been a lot of big money signings. We bought Benjamin White off of one Premier League season for 50 million. But largely, we can't go toe-to-toe with the other European clubs for X amount of players. So if we can find the players of tomorrow, especially where it's basically in Edu's back garden in Brazil, why not, really? Obviously Edu is Brazilian. He has worked with the Brazilian FA, so he has to still have a good relationship with coaches and scouts and things, and maybe he can put his eyes and ears in the Brazilian streets and see what could be done, not just for my man Bitello, but other players, really and truly. 8 million's a low risk investment. At the same time, whether you sign someone for 8 million or 80 million, millions of quids is still a lot, and if they're not doing their job, it can be a costly mistake. So we'll have to see exactly what is going to happen, really, but it is a low cost effect, and you'd imagine we could offset that by, you know, freeing up, let's say, resources. And when I say resources, that falls under both wages and transfer fees. If you get rid of the Pepes, you know, the Pepes, the Cedrics, the Lokongas, the Tavareses, the Holdings and whatnot of this world, obviously Xhaka, in my opinion, needed to stay, but you've got 21.5 million quid and shredded those wages. You'd imagine El Nene, Jorginho and Partey probably for the 2024-25 season, 1 to 2 of the 3 won't be at the club. So resources can be distributed elsewhere, really. And you do like the I do like the areas, as again he picks up on the pitch. You know, you see him pull out to the left, pull out to the right, drop central and look to play defense, splitting passes. If this is what, you know, well, obviously, you know, there was significantly more scouting and due diligence with the analysis than we're doing here, but if these are the things that attracted Mikel Arteta and Edu and the coaching team to want to sign the Guillermo 23-year-old, I could see why. You know, I'm really impressed by his technical ability and his willingness to put in a defensive shift, really, despite not being the most physical of imposing players. It sounds silly because a professional footballer should be doing it, but I like the way he's always playing with his head up, actually. He's always available for a pass. He's always trying to play a pass. You know, he's a strong dribbler. He's very good technically. You see him make little quick little skills and then he's gone. There's a lot to like about the 23-year-old, as I keep saying, people. Again, disclaimer, I'm not the most religious. I would love to get an interview with some Brazilian experts and things and see what could be done in that regards in relation to him. But you can see he's a decent player, man. Again, obviously the Brazilian league is very physical. And if you're doing the skills and dribbling and passing like he is, you know, you have to be able to ride challenges, but the tempo, the tenacity, the intensity of it is nothing like Europe, so he'd have to adapt. And again, as I said earlier, this is his first year in the Brazilian top flight. So if this is your first year in the Brazilian top flight, in Europe, that's an even bigger jump. So we'd have to give him scope to grow. And if we are giving him scope to grow, really and truly, how much first team football is he going to play next season? Because on the face of it, there's a lot of games. You know, on paper, Arsenal have 38 Premier League games. We've got at least the group stages of the Champions League. You've got the FA Cup to come in the turn of the year, and you've got the League Cup. So there is plenty of games and plenty of minutes to go around. But when you break it down, how many Premier League appearances are you going to make? How many starts are you going to make? How many 60 to 90 minute appearances are you going to make? The League Cup comes once or twice before the new year. The FA Cup doesn't come until we enter into 2024. Obviously the Champions League, fair enough, if we win our first couple of games and we're already through, then great stuff, but Arteta's got to take that very seriously. You know, this is professional football. This isn't a Sunday league club. This isn't a kids scheme where everyone needs minutes for the sake of it, and there's more experienced players at the club that are fighting for minutes and might not necessarily get minutes. So one has to wonder really what the plan would be for him. Does Arsenal deem that this is an opportunity too good to turn down? Clearly we're looking at emerging players, people, because again, apparently if we didn't get Timber, we was going to get the Dynamo Zagreb Croatian youngster Solato, who ironically Ajax want to buy, and we was, you know, alerted to his teammate, a very young Croatian centre mid in Brutina. Apparently Arsenal have no plans to move for him now. He's only 20 years of age, but that tells you we're looking at adding more young legs into our midfield, finding even more stars of tomorrow, introducing more emerging talents into the club, essentially. So we're going to have to see how these things develop, people, really and truly. And I don't know if I went over it already, people. I don't know if I mentioned it already, but one thing I like about him is, you know, when he puts those crosses into the back post, you can actually see, you know, Havertz, assuming he can hit the target, maybe Jesus, you know, they could benefit from that, really. You know, I would like us, listen, Mikel Arteta, we're never going to be a crossing team, but I would like us to have that element of sometimes just being able to put the ball into the box. And you can see with Declan Rice, with Havertz, we're adding taller players, more physical sort of players. And as I said, through my research, he actually linked up very well with, you know, Luis Suarez during his Guillermo days. What, you know, it would have been great if Arsenal signed Luis Suarez. I actually remember when he came out in a newspaper and said to Liverpool, let me go to Arsenal, really. If only that 40 million and a pound bid was successful, if that actually was. And again, he's very good in tight areas. You know, Arsenal, obviously 9 times out of 10, we're going to play a low block. Teams are going to sit back. They're going to try and assert themselves physically. They're going to try and limit the space and let us play in front of them and not get in behind. So it's all fun and games playing when any professional footballer can look good on the ball and pick out passes when you've got a lot of time, space, and the team sitting off you. Can you do it when there's not a single reason to do it? Which I think he can. And one thing I like, you know, Brazilians are very passionate. The Brazilian league is very physical, very partisan at times. It does look very tricky for away players to play at away grounds. So for me, if you can play in Brazil, and probably because of his upbringing as well, you know, if you can play in Brazil under these circumstances, you've got no problems definitely playing in the Premier League away from home and things. For him, it would just be, you know, I'd say from what I've seen, I would say if he signed for Arsenal tomorrow, the next step to development would be improving him physically, making him make decisions quicker, you know, probably being that he's good in the final third, but just a bit better. I would say sometimes he can go down blind alleys. Like sometimes I think he overdoes things and dribbles a little bit more, but you'd expect someone with his experience level to do these things. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a criticism, really and truly. I do like him, and obviously at Arsenal Football Club, he'd be surrounded by better players than he is right now. He'd be surrounded by better technical players. So it'd be good. And as you can see, you know, again, a long searching ball into the box, really. Nothing came of that, but I like the fact he wants to do it. And if you look between the details, you see him pop up on the left-hand side and the right-hand side of the pitch. I'm pretty sure if you ask him, he'd probably want to play centrally. I think he could be a good rotating 8, whether he actually signs for Arsenal or not. I think that could be a thing for him. Allegedly, he's actually put in a shift out wide. So, not a like for like player, but you know, in terms of Arsenal, the closest he would kind of be in terms of the positions they feel in the role they'd have, you'd probably align him to probably Fabio Vieira. But I think he would be a player a bit like Kai Havertz and Co, that you know, can play in different roles, but can play in midfield. You know, he like, you know, Fabio Vieira, Smith Rowe, Havertz, technically Zinchenko, even though he's exclusively played at left back and so on and so forth. Really, he can actually play right wing like Fabio Vieira has. He's more of a wide playmaker, and I wouldn't say it's not a strength of his, but I don't see that as a long-term role for him. But that could provide depth for Bukayo Saka to go with. Havertz could be utilised there. Jesus, of course, could be utilised there. We've obviously tied Reece Nelson down to a new deal as well. So there are several things we could do in that regards, people. You know, sometimes you just have to watch and admire. You know, as you can see in some of these clips, his teammates haven't been, you know, nice to him and allowed him to actually convert, you know, get assists because they failed to convert, really. And you can see him as well dropping deep, receiving the ball off the centre halves and things like that as well, which shows that he can do a bit of everything. Of course, if he signs for Arsenal, it's about refining him and things like that. And at this point, people, I don't want to keep repeating the same things to you lot. So a part of me just wants to shut up and let you lot make your own opinions of this. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, check out the other tactical videos, and let me know your thoughts on what we've seen so far. Actually, if you know more about him than me, I'm trying to learn like you lot. Again, another thing I like, when you look at these clips, he's all over the field. Now, Arteta would have to refine him, and not that Arteta doesn't want you all over the field. You know, you see Odegaard even exclusively on the right, pop over to the left. But, you know, we need to refine him a bit. But you see him comfortable on the left, on the right, in the in central areas, in the 10. Kind of not a 6, but receives it, going to the centre backs and receiving it like a 6. Making darting runs into the box, you know, performing out wide. So there's a decent foundation here. There's some raw ingredients for a real player, if I'm honest with you, really. And not once again, I know some people will sit there and go, you know what, boy, you know, 23 years of age, 1 season in the Brazilian top flight, may or may not get a work permit. It's a bit of a gamble, especially if we're focusing on preparing ourselves to go one better potentially than we did last season in the league and bring a trophy home. But at the same time, you know, that as much as I want to see the budget towards that, we've also got to be able to find the stars of tomorrow, really. And again, Arsenal are not going to make a snap decision. If we legitimately want to sign this guy, we've done our due diligence, we've done our scouting, we've seen his strengths, we've seen his weaknesses, we've seen him perform at home and away. You know, I actually want to do my research and see games he's played bad in, not to catch him out, but anyone can show you clips of when players have done good. How do they react when things are going wrong? How do they react when they're being man-marked or their team's losing? What's their mentality like? How do they react to adversity? How good are they at their worst, really and truly? Because it's not always about how good you are at your best. It's sometimes, are you able to perform at your worst? As I said, by no stretch of the imagination do I have an informed opinion, but there's a lot to like. Again, he tries to play them balls over the top, and you can see Bukayo Saka, Jesus, Martinelli loving that. But also that could benefit the Smith Rowes, the Odegaards, maybe Havertz, players that make those late runs into the box and hang on the edge of the area, really. Again, I must admit, the more I'm watching this clip, doing the audio for you lot, and forgive me for any complications around that, I'm pretty sure you lot can hear the background noise of the builders building and making bare noise and, you know, processing issues. I'm by no means the finished article at this tactical analysis, but I am trying to get better. I'm pretty sure you lot would agree that, you know, in the 3, 4, 5 videos I've done, there's been a little bit percentages better, and hopefully one day I'll be sick at this. You know, I'm just trying the thing, man. I'm trying to expand the content for you lot. Make sure you're hitting the like button and subscribing. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to give you lot a better package and entertain you lot a bit better, really. So I appreciate you lot for rocking with the guy, man. Hope you lot are doing well and safe, by the way, and everybody's in great health, man. But there's a lot to like, and he strikes me as somebody is dumb but very passionate, and you need passion, because as you've seen, for an attacking player, it's also what you do defensively and off the ball that Arteta likes, but it's also about your mentality. The mentality thing seems like a buzzword. Every team, every manager wants someone with good mentality, but isolated to Arsenal, we want players who genuinely want to be here. We want players that have their own opinion, will challenge their teammates and their manager to be better, and if they think things are wrong, but fundamentally they can put their ego to the side and understand no individual is above the collective, and we want the best for the team. And obviously, if we did sign him, if we did sign him and he did get a work permit, I think we'd do what we did with Marquinhos last season, in that you might excel in training and Arteta might, what a strike that was, and give you an opportunity, but you probably stay in England, gel, adapt to life in a new continent, let alone a new country, see what you can do in training, and if you get any opportunities in game, and then in January of 2024 we take it from there and see the next steps. Equally, Arsenal might say, game time is important, immediately go on loan to Holland, to France, to Spain, whatever in that regards. And part of me wants us to be a bit like Manchester City and Chelsea, start getting like these affiliate clubs all over the world. I know we used to have one in Belgium. We used to have a link up with a couple Spanish teams. It'd be nice to get these players in and let them have a home, really, and adjust to life. I don't know if he'll adapt to the Premier League, admittedly, but again, there are some parallels with the Brazilian league and obviously England. So I do think he won't have any issues, people. I do think he can improve following his runners as well. I'd say that's one thing I've seen, but that was a good little, as I said, following runners, that was a good defensive action from him in that regards. So I do think we've got a decent player here, potentially. What have you lot made of it so far? Again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. I'm going to keep saying it. If you know more about this individual than me, let me know. Let me know if you're convinced or you're not convinced. Football is a funny old game of opinions. Football is just about opinions. And the world would be boring, much less football, if we all agreed. I do like the fact that he's a bit trigger happy as well. He looks like a bit of a problem in and around the 6-yard box, man. There's a lot to like about him. But as I said, I want to know this guy religiously if he signs for Arsenal. I'd love to watch 10 games where he's actually not performed, because over a top flight campaign, he's not performed in every game. That's unrealistic, innit? And that's just so I could paint a picture for you lot and for myself. Again, in relation to a fee being agreed and medicals and all of these sort of things, these things haven't been done. We're going to go over that stuff in a minute, but we have been linked with him aggressively, so there has to be legs into it. A lot of clubs like players, are interested in players, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to move at that time for a player. We might actually just sit there and say, you know what, we'll further assess him and we'll move when the time's right, really and truly. Who knows? But there's a lot to like about him, man. 23 years of age, ain't been capped by Brazil yet, which is another criticism some would say. He can't be that good, but who knows? Forgive me if I'm wrong, but didn't Neymar, I'm not comparing him to Neymar, but didn't Neymar leave Brazil at 23 years of age? It's completely, entirely different. But my point being, you shouldn't just write off a player because they don't fit the status quo, man. Footballers have unique entries into football. I don't care if a player is signed for 50p or 50 million pounds. I don't care where they're from, what nationality, what league. If they're the right players and they can show at Arsenal, why not? Look at that lovely bit of skill from him. Yeah, I mean, I've got a bias towards Brazilian players. See, stuff like that in the Premier, you might not get a foul for that little action you saw there. So as I said, one thing you can see in this game, sometimes there's a time to play and there's a time not to play, and there's a time you need to give and go. But these are things you would expect somebody at his age with his experience to need to fine tune, really and truly. So if, pardon me, sorry people, if Arteta is able to get that out of him, then we're laughing. And again, man, he makes, there's a variety in his runs. He's not just a basic player. Again, he loves a give and go, a defense splitting pass. I like him a lot, man. He shows a willingness to shoot. Obviously, he's hit the target. That one there probably wasn't the best of decisions from him, better yet, but you get the point. He kind of ran into people traffic there. Lovely pass there. And again, even with Timber and, the Tierney's and Zinchenko's, everybody flying forward, as much as they're going to be inverted or playing in inverted roles, this could benefit Arsenal Football Club a tenfold. As you can see, look, lovely play here. Lovely in tight spaces, man. You know what? I'm kind of hoping we get this done. Admittedly, it feels like we need one more midfielder to complete the set to, for the Premier League, because I am concerned about our options in the middle of the park. Don't get it twisted. I am intrigued to see what Arteta has planned for Havertz, and I'm going to give him a chance. Declan Rice is a curtain raiser. I'm gassed about that. Obviously, Timber can technically play in midfield. Whether Mikel Arteta will do that's another thing. You have got Jorginho, El Nene, Partey on the books. I just feel with Xhaka, we've lost 7 goals, 7 assists, so we've lost the goal threat. As much as we lost experience and stuff, and I think we're a bit weak in that 8 role really, because Havertz is going to have to take time to gel with Odegaard and Rice if he plays in that. Obviously, he's going to need to learn the 8 role properly, whether he's done it at Leverkusen or not, because there's many elements to play in midfield beyond just linking up playing the final third. So there could be initial teething problems. That's why I would like initially a ready-made number 8. I think the 6 has left us until at least El Nene, Jorginho, Partey depart the club. So that puts to bed the Lavias, the Caicedos of this world, people. But I do think we're missing an 8. I think if we can get an 8 in the market or another central midfield body, wherever they're from, I think we'd be good, because I feel for physicality, Rice, Partey, Odegaard, Odegaard's not necessarily the most physically imposing, but in terms of pressing metrics and stuff and tackles, for a number 10, he ranks quite high. Again, the Rice, Odegaard, Havertz partnership's going to need time to gel, but I do think that could be a good one. I just feel we're missing one more, if I'm honest with you. And, that is one of my concerns for next season, especially. And also, I'd say efficiency in both boxes, because on the face of it, Odegaard, Martinelli, everybody's chipped in with goals. But apart from Saka, who's done it for 2 years now, I don't know if that's going to continue. And I think compared to what we used to be, we've improved a tenfold defensively. But when you look at the season that's just gone, 2022-23, and the season before that, there's as much as I feel we've improved defensively because of the personnel and a shift in mentality, I don't think we're necessarily our full potential there. So if I've got concerns about how we keep balls out the back of our net, on the transition, moments of lapses on concentration, individual mistakes. While I'm confident that we can score goals, we got 80 odd last season. I don't know for sure if we're going to have 80 odd goals next season. And I think we need to improve a tenfold defensively, even though Ramsdale's up there for clean sheets in the Prem. So that's just one of my concerns and improvements, really. And I in fact, concern's not even the right word. That's just evidently what we need to do better. You can see him operating off that wide right. So you could see him being quite decent. I just wonder for game time, and if he did sign for Arsenal tomorrow, what would be the immediate plan for him? Would he go out on loan? Would he play? Would he be a rotation option? Not necessarily in every match they scored until he displays something differently. I'm not sure, people, if I'm completely honest with you. But there's a lot to like about him. Very good dribbler as well. Very strong carrier. Backs himself as well in all situations. Links up well with his teammates. Looks to find his teammates. Plays with his head up. Makes darting runs into the box. Pops around all over the pitch. He seems like a thinking footballer. It sounds dumb, but some footballers seem like they play on instinct, which a young man like him evidently does. But he seems like a lot of what he does is calculated, people. So I'm not necessarily against any of this, if I'm completely honest with you. So we'll have to see how these things develop. But there's a lot to like about the man, if I'm honest with you. As I said, I would like a more ready-made Premier League experienced guy, but if Arteta and Cole reckon that this is, money well spent, then it's money well spent, people. Again, there's no point me waffling and saying the same thing, so moment of silence as you lot, enjoy the clips. And as I said, make sure you're commenting, you're liking, you're subscribing, you're letting me know your thoughts on Arsenal's transfer business as a whole. Let me know, are you concerned, or are you convinced with Kai Havertz? Are you convinced with Bitello in question? What's your thoughts on Declan Rice and Timber? Do you think Arsenal have done enough? Do you actually think Arsenal are stronger in midfield regardless of the signings? Or is it a sideward step? Because many would say we've gone up a level in midfield. Many would say it's a bit more of the same. Are you concerned about our depth? What other areas in the team would you like to see Arteta and Arsenal improve upon, really and truly? So let me know your thoughts, people. Let me know your thoughts. And again, I apologise for any technical difficulties and it not being as crisp and whatnot as it potentially could be, people. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. Again, people will say this is Brazilian League, but you can only play what is in front of you, as you know. All in all, people, I think Bitello's a good player. I do wonder, I do think Arsenal's an attractive proposition. You see what we're doing with players. You see what we're doing with young players. You see what Mikel Arteta is doing for young players. You see how young our squad is, and the element of growing with your teammates could appeal to Bitello, as well as obviously being Brazilian and us having a wealth of Brazilians, and obviously Mikel Arteta as a manager. I just wonder if a Ajax, if a Monaco, if a Anderlecht, if them kind of clubs come in for you, does he, or even Shakhtar really, who signed a lot of South American Americans or several clubs in Portugal. Does he see that as, you know, the intermediate step to develop in Europe? And then obviously you grow, you develop, and then if the time comes, if you do show the potential, you know, to move to a bigger European team. I do like the fact of, clearly, you know, if you've got 6-7 goals / 6-7 assists, I can't remember it exactly, people. You are evidently a goal threat and you have to get into the right areas. So that could be an element, you know, that could add something to the team. Let's just assume he played as an 8 and he was ready to play as an 8 tomorrow for Arsenal Football Club, you know. On top of needing to introduce things, on the face of it, as I said, Xhaka got 7 goals, 7 assists or something like that in the Premier League for us last season. You kind of somewhat do your part to replace that, because, you know, I know Xhaka scored on the last day of the season, he scored against Spurs, but how many of Xhaka's goals won us a point or 3 points or stopped us from losing? You know, football's a simple game. You need to keep balls out the back of your net and you need to score more in your opponent's net, essentially, people. And I do like the element of selflessness in his play as well. He is quite selfless. He isn't quite greedy. And again, at a young age, decision making, as some of you lot know, the hardest thing to do in football is play simple, is make the right decisions. Like in life, you know, you should get 9, 8, 9, 10 hours sleep. You know, you need to eat 3 meals a day. You know, you should read. You know, you should do all these things. You know, you shouldn't overindulge in drinking, and for some of you, smoking. I don't know about that, but you know, it's difficult, and football's no different. You know, everybody knows in theory, you know, if you pass when you need to pass, you shoot when you need to shoot. If a teammate's in a better position, you make decisions accordingly. But at the same time, it's easier said than done, especially for a young player, which I do think he's kind of calculated, but they do play a lot on instinct. And he has got a wonderful array of skills. It's not really the step overs and that. It's the cute technical little skills to get away from his from an opponent. He has got good balance. You know, he has got good confidence. You know, he's trying to flick it over people's head. Now, I'm not going to lie. There is an element of banduluness, if that is a word, with some of these highlights we're looking at. As you can see, again, he's on the right-hand side, people. I don't think he's a winger long term. I mean, you can operate as a wide playmaker, but seems like you're better centrally, people. And as you can see, he's clearly not afraid to shoot, really. As you can see, lovely whip on that, really. A bit of Brazilian league tax, but lovely bit of football from him individually. And if we do get him, I think, you know, we need to obviously develop him. But again, you could see the man's got a lot of quality and a lot of things to like about him, people. There's a lot of real elements. There's a lot of real foundation that could be crafted, molded and guided by Mikel Arteta to be a player of tomorrow. I just, obviously, ultimately, minutes are currency. 23 years of age, you need to play. If he's not going to get 20, 30, well, 30 might be an exaggeration, but 20 Premier League experiences, 20 league Premier League appearances, and make up the difference in cup games with 90-minute performances, then I think you need to loan him out almost instantly. You know, based on how he plays, I'd like to loan him. You'd obviously love him to go on loan to the Premier League, but if he doesn't qualify for a UK work permit, that's done. I wouldn't mind if it was up to me, if it was Football Manager, you know, probably Holland, maybe France, Spain, definitely. Players, you know, them kind of leagues that are more technical leagues that seem like they'll get the best out of him, really and truly. Obviously, if he did sign for us in the Premier League tomorrow, there'd be an element of a culture shock, because he wouldn't get nearly enough time on the ball as he seems to be getting now, people. But I do think he's a danger in and around the opponent's area. As you can see once again, folks, man. Obviously, that shot was shanked wide by a teammate. But he is good, man. He makes good runs off the ball. And again, for me, with him linking up with the Smith Rowes, the Odegaards, the Havertz, the Sakas, the Martinellis, all the technical players at this club, Jesus, you would love it, man. He would thrive, man. You know, that might have not been the right decision from him to necessarily try that skill in that particular moment. But I like the confidence to be able to do things, because at the end of the day, football is about expression. You know, how many great technical players haven't reached their potential because they're probably nervous and scared? And likewise, how many players that are bog standard have cut out top careers because of their mentality, because of their bravery and all of these things? Football is a mental game as much as it is physical and technical, as you lot know, especially those of you who are part of my channel on a regular basis. Again, please, people, don't forget to comment your thoughts, man, because we've been here for about 30 odd minutes. Let me know your thoughts on what you see already. Let me know your thoughts. Would you sign him? Would you say, forget this, let's put that 8 million towards something else, really? Because you could say, our development signings, have they worked? You know, the Fabio Vieira experiment of 20, 30 odd million, jury's still out. Lokonga, it looks like 20 million too expensive. Tavares was signed for 8 million, not really worked out there. Obviously, signings are not going to consistently work. People are going to get things wrong. Every club, no matter how much due diligence, scouting and research you do, it's ultimately a risk, but a calculated risk at that. You know, any manager that hasn't made a bad signing or every player has worked out, I'd be looking at them a bit pessimistically. It's like, you know, if you as a rich individual and a wealth management company reached out to you to allow you to diversify your funds and your assets and ultimately help you make money, and they tell you they have 100% success rate, they've never lost a trade or they've never lost an investment, would you invest your money in that? Really? Yeah, you might think, whoa, foolproof, but would you invest your money in that? It don't really make sense, does it? Really, it doesn't sound credible, does it, folks? So who knows, really and truly. But I like what I see. Honestly, I like what I see. And again, you know, stats without context make no sense. You know, again, stats don't lie, but they also don't paint a full picture. And as you know, in today's day and age, with a wealth of statistics available to you, people can just do whatever they want. But Bitello right now in 2023 Brazilian Serie A, you know, for final third passes attempted, he has made 263, for ball recoveries 98, for touches in the opposition box 49, for fouls 47, and he has 3 goals. I don't think that's necessarily right, or this is when I found it at the time, people. So there's a lot to like about him. And as you can see in the left hand side of the graphic, he tends to peel to the left hand side a bit more than the right hand side and seems to be a bit more comfortable there. You can also see him dropping into the 6th position, assuming he receives the ball off the centre halves, and rather vaguely you see him pull out to the right. So there is a lot of good foundation and elements, and if Arsenal don't sign him, you could see why he might have alerted our Arsenal scouts to his ability, really and truly. You know, again, he has won more fouls and had more touches in the opposition box than any other midfielder in the 2023 Brazilian top flight so far, and he ranks 3rd for ball recoveries, which Arteta must like, or the scouts must like, if they're looking at players that fit Arteta's system and remit and statistics and dynamics with things he wants. For what it's worth, Fabrizio Romano, the transfer guru, on him has said, "I'm aware there have been links, there have been reports, claiming a deal is close for Arsenal to sign Bitello from Gremio this week, but I'm not sure things are as advanced as others have suggested. My understanding is that Bitello is one of many talents followed and monitored by Arsenal's South American scouting team, as he's doing very well for Gremio. Ain't that the same academy Ronaldinho came out? No pressure, lad. Let's see if they open talks in the next days. Rumours have been there since 1 month, but we're still waiting for an official move or bid at the moment." So that might tell you talk of moving to Arsenal is premature, but also might tell you that, you know, while we haven't placed a bid, and ultimately if bids can't be placed, medicals can't be done, players can't sign, but it tells you, you know, that we're interested, we're looking, we're just trying to make sure we stay aware to South American talents and just making sure we're in the know. And it doesn't necessarily mean there hasn't been informal talks with his agent, with the player, and with Guillermo or people in and around the club in relation to not only is the player willing to leave, are you willing to sell, and what the makeup and breakdown of a deal potentially will look like for Arsenal Football Club. When you look at, you break down these positions courtesy of Transfermarkt, he's played 10 times as a right winger, 9 times as a right midfielder, 6 times as an attacking midfielder, 5 times as a defensive midfielder, and 3 times as a central mid. Now, again, without looking at all of these games, context is key, because he might have just been the deepest midfielder. That doesn't necessarily mean he was a defensive midfielder per se, really. And right winger and right midfielder are kind of the same thing. At present for Gremio, he has 85 appearances, people, with 16 goals and 7 assists. In the 2nd division in Brazil, he's got 36 appearances, 7 goals and 3 assists. And I'm not actually sure if that's right, but in the top flight of the Brazilian league, in 14 appearances so far, he has 3 assists. So again, he hasn't got 100 career appearances under his belt, so there's a good foundation and element, but he's not the most of experience just yet. So there's a lot that he would need to improve and develop on. Maybe why going out on loan away from the work permit things we discussed could be something for him, people, really. And when you look at his heat map for the season so far, again, it looks a lot more all-rounded. You see him primarily, you know, on the left and the right hand side, and those heat maps are undoubtedly red. That tells you he could probably play as an 8 either side of the defensive midfielder. It also tells you that, you know, he does love to occupy wide areas, playing neat little 1-2s, balls in behind and over the top, and just pulling out wide to help fullbacks. It does show you that he more or less is all over the field, really and truly, across all actions. So as I said, there's a lot to like about him. Let me know your thoughts. Comment, smash the like button, subscribe, take in the rest of the videos. One love, people. And again, tactical videos are here to stay. You know, my Martinelli video got done dirty with copyright strike after copyright strike, but we're still trying. So apologies in advance if that one doesn't quite match up when YouTube is finished processing it. Stay blessed, stay safe. I'm out.